Divorced for 6 months, I was finally getting used to living with my son and establishing a routine. But then, out of the blue, I received a text from my ex-husband. Ex-husband, how are you doing? I miss the two of you, whom I love dearly. The two he claimed to love give me pause, considering it was his fault we divorced. My name is Emma, and I'm 30 years old. Let me tell you about my journey. The one that made me realize I could be happier alone with my son than with a husband and in-laws who treated me like a servant. You see, my life was going great until I found out I was pregnant. My husband, James, and I had been married for a year, and everything seemed perfect. We met through work and dated for 2.5 years before tying the knot. James was 3 years older than me, and while his income was lower, I fell in love with his dedication to work. He was kind and helped with household chores, which was partly because I earned more. But I was happy to marry such a wonderful person. But after I got pregnant, things took a turn for the worse. It all began with a seemingly innocent suggestion from James. We were having dinner when he suddenly brought up the idea of living with his parents. We rarely saw his folks, and I wasn't thrilled about moving in with them. But James insisted it would give us peace of mind. I couldn't refuse when he argued that it was for the safety of our child. So, in my first month of pregnancy, we began living with his parents. At first, they were welcoming, especially his mother, who took care of my well-being. It wasn't so bad, I thought, but that feeling didn't last long. Within a week of living together, I found myself in a servant-like state. I'd prepare breakfast, and even though I deviated from their traditional menu, they'd criticize me for not adhering to their way. James and his father didn't support me. Instead, they sided with his mother. As time went on, I felt more like a housemaid than a family member. I tried my best to maintain our lifestyle, but they dumped all the household chores on me, even though I was working too. The only thing that saved me from more work was that I didn't experience severe morning sickness. The real hell began when I started my maternity leave. I had no choice but to stay at home and face my in-laws. When I tried to go for a walk for my health, they insisted that I do housework instead. They said I could clean the stairs and mop the floors, claiming it was good exercise. I couldn't believe they were asking a pregnant woman to do such dangerous tasks. I decided to ignore them and go for my walk. But when I returned, James confronted me about neglecting my household duties. I was furious. His attitude had changed so much, and he constantly sided with his parents, making me feel like an outsider in my own home. It reached a point where I couldn't take it anymore. One evening, James confronted me, saying, "Why can't you listen to what my mom says?" He even threatened to kick me out if I didn't apologize. I was disgusted by his arrogance. Who did he think he was? I decided to call his bluff and said, "I take your words, and I'm leaving." He panicked and tried to stop me, saying, "Are you serious about leaving? Do you think you can be happy as a single mother?" I couldn't believe he was still demanding an apology, but I was done with his arrogance. I told him I was leaving and began packing my things. He tried to stop me, but I was determined. His mother even followed me to the door, and as I thanked her for her hospitality, she realized the neighbors were watching, so she quickly hushed. I stayed at a friend's place for a while and used my inheritance from my parents to get an apartment. I filed for divorce and successfully obtained child support for my son. 6 months later, James reached out to me, asking how I was doing and saying he felt lonely without us. But I couldn't forgive him and his parents for everything they put me through. Life took a different turn after I left that toxic environment. My son and I settled into our new apartment, and slowly but surely, we began to rebuild our lives. It wasn't always easy, but the freedom to make choices for ourselves, without the constant scrutiny and demands of James and his family, was incredibly liberating. I focused on nurturing my son and providing him with a loving and nurturing environment. We developed a special bond, and his laughter and milestones became my greatest source of happiness. I realized that I didn't need James or his family to be content. All I needed was my son. Managing work and motherhood wasn't a walk in the park, but it was worth it. I had the flexibility to create a schedule that worked for us, and I was determined to prove to myself and everyone else that I could be an independent, successful woman and a loving mother simultaneously. As time passed, James continued to reach out, expressing loneliness and regret. He even went so far as to suggest that I couldn't be happy as a single mother. But I had learned that happiness wasn't determined by having a partner or in-laws who provided financial support. It came from within, from the love I had for my son and the strength I found in myself. I didn't hold on to anger or resentment, but I couldn't forget the way I had been treated. I refused to let James back into our lives, knowing that his change of heart was likely temporary and self-serving. Instead, I focused on building a support network of friends and other single mothers who understood my struggles. We shared advice, helped each other with childcare, and provided emotional support during the challenging moments. Together, we created a tight-knit community that empowered us to overcome obstacles and thrive as single parents. Over time, I managed to find a better balance between work and life. My career continued to grow, and I learned to cherish the moments I had with my son, making every day an adventure. We took trips to the park, explored new hobbies, and celebrated birthdays and milestones surrounded by friends who had become like family. I watched my son grow into a bright, confident, and compassionate young boy, and it filled me with pride. Our journey wasn't without challenges, but the rewards were immeasurable. I couldn't have predicted that leaving a toxic situation would lead me to a life that was more fulfilling and joyful than I had ever imagined. As for James and his family, I heard through the grapevine that they were still living their lives, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief that I was no longer a part of it. My decision to leave had been the right one, and it had opened up a world of possibilities and happiness for both my son and me. I had learned that happiness and strength came from within, and the love and bond one shared with my son were more than enough to create a beautiful and fulfilling life. My name is Emma, and I am living proof that sometimes the best decision you can make is to leave the toxicity behind and embrace a future filled with love, freedom, and self-discovery. Our life continued to evolve, and with each passing day, my son, whom I affectionately called Max, grew more curious and independent. He started school, and his energy and enthusiasm for learning were infectious. Max was thriving, and I couldn't have been prouder of the young boy he was becoming. I had managed to advance in my career as well. My determination and hard work had paid off, and I had found a good balance between work and being there for Max. I had a solid support system of friends and fellow single parents, and we often shared stories, advice, and childcare duties, creating a beautiful community. In the years that followed, James made sporadic attempts to reconnect, but his attempts were met with polite but firm rejection. I had learned to protect my newfound happiness, and I wasn't willing to risk it for someone who had treated me so poorly in the past. My son and I had built a life together, one that was full of love, laughter, and endless possibilities. Max's early childhood was marked by our adventures. From exploring nature to discovering new hobbies, we celebrated birthdays, learned new skills, and built lasting memories with friends who had become like family. I watched Max grow into a compassionate and bright young boy, and it filled my heart with joy. As time went on, I found a sense of closure and forgiveness within myself. I no longer carried the burden of anger or resentment towards James and his family. Our past was just that, our past. I had moved on, and the life I had built was a testament to my resilience and strength. I knew that Max deserved to know about his father, and as he grew older, he began asking questions about him. I shared the truth about our past, emphasizing that his father's choices had led us on separate paths. Max was a perceptive child, and he understood that we were better off without the negativity that had once surrounded us. Despite the challenges we had faced, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the choices I had made. Leaving that toxic environment had not only saved me but had also given Max the chance to grow up in a loving and nurturing home. We were a team, and our bond was unbreakable. One of the greatest lessons I had learned was that happiness was an inside job. It wasn't determined by the presence or absence of a partner or in-laws. It came from the love and strength I found within myself and the beautiful life I had created for Max and me. As the years went by, our story continued to be written, filled with adventures, challenges, and the unwavering love of a mother and her son. I had come to realize that sometimes the most difficult decisions could lead to the most beautiful and fulfilling outcomes. My name is Emma, and our journey was proof that it's never too late to embrace a life of happiness, independence, and boundless love. As Max continued to grow, his individuality shone through in every way. He developed his own interests and passions, and I did my best to nurture those while supporting his education and personal growth. Max was not only intelligent but also compassionate, and his kindness endeared him to everyone who knew him. Our circle of friends continued to expand, and we built strong relationships with other families, creating a close-knit community that provided mutual support. It was a reminder that family came in various forms, and the bonds we forged were as genuine as any blood connection. I never held Max back from knowing his heritage, and as he grew older, his curiosity about his father increased. I realized it was time to provide him with more details about James. With great care, I told Max about the past, explaining the challenges we had faced and the reasons behind my decision to leave. Max listened with an understanding beyond his years, and I marveled at the depth of his empathy. He had a remarkable ability to see the good in people, even those who had caused us pain. Max's acceptance of the past made me even more proud of the young man he was becoming. In our quiet moments, Max would sometimes ask questions about his father, and I would share stories about the early days of our relationship, the good times before things had changed. It was important to me that Max had a balanced perspective of his father, allowing him to form his own opinions. We also celebrated milestones and important events in our lives. Max's birthdays were a joyous occasion, filled with friends and loved ones who had become like extended family. His achievements at school, from winning science fairs to excelling in sports, were moments of pride that lit up our lives. In the quiet of our evenings, we often sat down with books, sharing stories and dreams. Max had a vivid imagination and a thirst for knowledge, and those evenings were moments of bonding that I cherished deeply. I continued to nurture my career, and I was grateful for the opportunities one had to make a difference in my field. The balance between work and home life was at times challenging, but it was a testament to the strength and resilience we had developed as a team. Max's teenage years arrived faster than I could have ever anticipated. The once energetic and curious child had now transformed into a young man with dreams and ambitions of his own. It was a delight to see the world through his eyes as he navigated high school and the complexities of adolescence. He had developed an affinity for science and showed a natural talent for it. His curiosity about the world and his passion for learning were unwavering. I encouraged his pursuits, and we spent countless hours discussing scientific theories and conducting experiments in our small home laboratory. Our home was a place of warmth and acceptance, a sanctuary for Max to explore his interests and discover who he was becoming. It was a place where he could discuss anything, from school to friendships and even his curiosity about his absent father. Our conversations were open and honest, and it was clear that he had a deep understanding of the choices I had made. As Max's circle of friends continued to grow, he had become known for his compassion and empathy. He had a knack for supporting those who needed it and offering a listening ear when his friends faced challenges. I was proud of the kind and considerate person he was becoming. In the midst of Max's teenage years, I received a letter one day. It was from James, his father. I was surprised, as he hadn't made contact in quite some time. The letter was heartfelt and filled with apologies for his past behavior. He expressed a desire to reconnect with Max and be a part of his life. I showed Max the letter, and we discussed it together. It was a difficult conversation, as I had made a promise to protect Max from any harm or negativity. However, Max was now old enough to make his own decisions. We decided to meet with James, under the condition that Max's well-being and happiness remained the top priority. The meeting was a mixture of emotions, nervousness, curiosity, and a touch of apprehension. When we finally met with James, it was a moment filled with mixed feelings. Max approached the situation with an open heart, ready to understand his father and possibly build a connection. As for me, I was cautious but willing to let the past remain there. Over time, James played a role in Max's life, attending his school events and celebrations. While he had missed out on many years, James seemed genuinely committed to being there for his son. The years continued to pass, and Max's journey through high school was marked by academic achievements and a growing sense of purpose. He had his sights set on a future in science, and I had no doubt that he would make a significant impact in the world. As Max prepared to leave for college, a bittersweet feeling filled our home. The boy who had once relied on my guidance was now a young adult ready to take on the world. We packed his belongings and embarked on the journey to his chosen university, a new chapter of our lives unfolding. My name is Emma, and my story is a testament to the strength of a mother-son bond and the power of choice. Our journey had been marked by resilience, love, and the unwavering support we provided each other. As Max left for college, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in the extraordinary young man he had become.